So you got yourself a Stihl MS 271 chainsaw. Congratulations. This is a great saw for the weekend warrior, the firewood cutter. It's fairly light, just over 12 pounds. It's a 50cc saw, puts out about 3.5 horse and has a 20-inch bar and chain. Today we want to talk about what it's like to own this saw, some things you can do to avoid problems, frustrations, and also some things to do to keep yourself safe. So let's start off with some safety stuff. Chaps. Guys, I'm going to tell you, when you're out running a chainsaw, I know we're big, we're macho, we've never done it before, our dads never did it, whatever. Chaps are a wise thing to wear. Every time I run a chainsaw, personally, I do put on chaps. They create that layer of protection that's going to protect my legs, and it's not worth the risk of not running chaps. So chaps are always super important. Ear protection, we know the chainsaws run loud. They rip. They're running at 13,000 plus RPMs. They put out a lot of noise. So ear protection, and that can come in just a pair of earmuffs, or I like to run a helmet with ear protection and a face shield on it when I'm out running a chainsaw. And then always safety glasses, whether they're these yellow ones that really light up the dull, dreary winter days, or whether it's safety, sunglasses that can get me out on a sunny day. So always think safety first. Let's go over the fuel, the starting, the operation, that sort of thing. So this is a 2-cycle machine, you know that, right? So we've got to run mix oil with gas. I try to buy small amounts of gas, ethanol-free gas, so I go through it fast enough and prevent damage to my carburetor and my fuel lines that happen as fuel sits and ages, especially non-ethanol fuel. If you aren't using this saw a lot, if it's a saw that you break out, once every month or 2 months, you may want to consider Moto Mix. This has become a great answer for a lot of people. It is pre-mixed fuel. It's ready to go. I pour it in the tank. It's got a 2-year shelf life. It's a higher octane rating than we can buy. It's a 93 octane. It's ethanol free. It's really a stable fuel. It starts well, runs well. And the fuel is going to go right here. Stihl has these flip caps, right? So I flip up the black, and then I give it about a quarter turn, a little over, and the cap pulls out, fill my fuel. Let's do it real quick. Let's put some fuel in this thing. I've got my moto and I've got my funnel here because I don't like to spill it. Tighten it up, and let's pour some fuel in. We're actually going to start this saw up today too. This thing has never been started, so usually that means they start a little harder, but I'm willing to do that. But what I wanted to show is the importance of keeping your ears on as you're pulling the rope on a Stihl chainsaw, because there's what I like to call a false start, and they always like to false start, and that's your sign to turn the choke off. Okay, so I've got fuel. I also need bar oil. This is important stuff, right? This chain is spinning super fast. There's different grades of bar oil. On the 20-inch and below saws, I can run the Stihl wood cutter. If I'm getting into a bigger saw, I definitely would want to run the platinum personally. If you run the platinum all the time in smaller saws, that's great, but you can get away with this wood cutter. That's going to go right here in this front reservoir, this front tank. Flip up, quarter turn. Again, the cap comes off. I have already put bar oil in here just to be ahead of the game a little bit. So we've got bar oil. I'm going to fill my bar oil every time I fill my gas, right? I'm not going to try to skip a tank fill. So I want to fill those in time with one another. Chain tension. Chain is properly tensioned on this. That's done by loosening the bar nuts and turning this tensioner screw that's right in the middle. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen these about a turn. I'm going to back this off so I have slack so the chain is actually hanging and there's no contact. I'm then going to tighten it until the top of the chain hits the bottom of the bar right somewhere in the middle. And I'm going to go a half a turn more, and I'm going to hold up on the chain and bar and tighten the bar nuts. This does have a brake on it. I always want to start a chainsaw with a brake because when I'm pulling the rope, I'm not in control of the saw. So I always have the brake on to start it. The purpose of the brake, though, is really when I'm cutting, and if this saw were to kick back, you hear that? It's going to happen a lot faster than that. It's not going to be slow-mo. You're going to be out cutting, you're going to do something wrong, and the thing's going to go bam, and kick back, and you'll be like, thank goodness that didn't hit me. There's 3 reactive forces. There's kickback, there's pushback, and there's pull in, and all of those can activate this chain brake. I'm going to throw my chaps on here real quick. We're going to start this thing up. We'll talk a little bit about Stihl's master control lever. This is a common thing on most every Stihl chainsaw. There's a couple new ones that are changing things up a little bit. But the master control lever not only controls the choke and the high speed idle or throttle lock and the off. So here's what we do. When we go to start this saw, I'm going to squeeze the trigger, come all the way down to choke. Hopefully you can see that well. This is, pay attention, this is what messes up some people in Stihl chainsaws. So all the way down is choke. I manually move it up one notch to the start position. And this start position, when I pull the rope and it starts, it's going to be at a high speed. Okay, then immediately when that happens, I squeeze the trigger and it moves it up to idle. And then all the way up is off. Well, let me tell you what happens. I go all the way down to choke. I pull the rope, it pops, I take it off choke, I pull the rope, it starts, and instead of squeezing the trigger, I force this switch here up to the idle position. And when I do that force, I can knock something loose, I can twist something, I can just screw it all up. So one of the most common things I see on a Stihl chainsaw that frustrates people is they don't squeeze the trigger to return to run. I think before we get into starting it, we should probably pull off the air filter cover. The air filter's right under here. We need these 3 screws to come loose. Your saw is going to come with a Torx wrench. You can use a Torx wrench to do it, or you can also use your bar wrench, a flat-headed bar wrench. Didn't quite get enough turns on that front one. Cover off. Under this cover, this is where my spark plug is going to be, right there, as well as my air filter. This gives you an idea of what that lever looks like inside, and when you force it, you'll see I start flexing and I can push this rod actually out of the holder and cause it to freeze up. Okay, this air filter comes off with just a twist and it slides out. There's my air filter. This is washable. I can take it inside, dish soap, water, wash it up, set it on the air filter intake, and click. Hear that? That means it's sealed. Let's go ahead and drop this cover back on here and tighten it up, and then we'll go ahead and give it a start. So what was your first experience with a Stihl chainsaw? Did you grow up with one around the house? How old were you when you first cut? Or is this your first time owning a Stihl chainsaw? I'm excited. They're awesome saws, but hopefully this video will give you some input on what you need to do to get the most out of it. Talked a little bit about that choke switch, that being a problem. I'll tell you, not properly tensioning a chain is another problem. People will have a chain too loose and they'll go out and what I like to call brushing, not cutting one piece of wood, but cutting multiple sticks, branches, and that causes that chain to jump off. When the chain comes off with that force, it'll actually burr up the bottom of the teeth and cause damage to it. And then you kind of end up needing a new chain usually, or you're sitting in a file for hours on it. Okay, let's fire this up. I'm going to set the brake on. I'm going to squeeze the trigger. I'm going to go all the way down to choke. Again, this is the first time this saw is started, so it takes more than normal. Traditionally on a Stihl saw, it's 2 to 3 pulls on choke, and you'll hear it fire, and then that next pull, you off a choke, and it starts up. Couple ways to start it. One is a leg lock. I like this. Okay, if you can see me over the table, lock it in between my legs. The other is down on the ground. My foot would go in here and my knee on here. Never what we call a drop start. I don't own the saw when I do that. I want to be in as much control as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I turn it on? 7, 8, 9. It's a lot of pulls. Again, that was the first time. But did you hear that false start, that pop, that try to run? Up one notch. Okay. As soon as it started, I hit the trigger and it returned it to idle. Had I not done that, what that would have done is kept it on high speed. And what it's doing the whole time, I got that brake on. It's power braking this thing. And it's heating up that brake on the sprocket, and you can do some damage. So that'd be the third thing that I see people do and get frustrated. It's not very often, but it's having the brake engaged and giving it gas for a long time. In fact, one of these days I want to sacrifice a saw and do a video on how long it takes, but I'm told like a minute, 45 seconds to a minute of full throttle with the brake on will melt the housing and damage it. So I don't want to see you do that. Let's get that thing returned to idle, get the brake off, and go to cut. What else do we need to know about this saw? We know how to tension the chain, right? We know how to start it. We know where the air filter is. We know where the fuel goes, and we know that it's got to be mixed or moto. We know about bar oil. Anything else you may need to know? Thank goodness you bought it at Carl's. You got a folder, model, serial, today's date of purchase. Open up the manual. You're gonna have all of your maintenance stuff. And hey, cool, you got this cool sharpening card. We'll gladly give you some pointers on how to sharpen a chain, pick up a file, help you out, do some field dressing. But you got a gift sharpening card from Carl's Mower that's gonna sharpen your chain for, on the MS 271, $125 worth of free chain sharpening came with this saw. So you've got a lot of chain sharpens to burn through. Keep out of the dirt. That's going to extend the life of your saw. Thanks for purchasing your Stihl MS 271. We look forward to helping you get the most out of all of your Stihl products at Carl's Mower and Saw. Hey, this is Josh from Carl's Mower and Saw. Thanks for watching our videos. We're proud of the fact that we've been serving you with the best in outdoor power equipment since 1990. We're glad that you had an opportunity to sit down, watch our videos, learn something about an exciting new product that we have, something that interests you for your property, or really how to use your equipment to the best of its ability. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube. We're excited to share more information with you. See you soon.